are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
The URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, being a political movement, will be hosting a weekly radio program called You Are Sint Maarten, every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM. I myself, Dr. Mercelina, the political leader of URSM, will be hosting this radio program in which current issues, actualities and general topics will be discussed with the people of Sint Maarten. So join us every Wednesday on Radio Mix 94.7 for our radio show You Are Sint Maarten.
You are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
Dear people of Sint Maarten, good evening. Welcome to your radio program You Are Sint Maarten on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM. I think actually it's not necessary anymore to introduce myself because, as you know, I'm Dr. Mercelina. I am your host for this radio program as of the beginning that we started with the initiative to have this radio program, You Are Sint Maarten. As you know, I am the surgeon also in Sint Maarten, and since the 10th of October 2021, I'm the political leader and the founder of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, that will, of course, contest the upcoming parliamentary elections for County Sint Maarten. And that is why we're doing it, because we really want to give the people an option for a new choice in January 2024. As you know, the URSM stands for putting the people and the country above self. That is very, very important. As you know, very often you hear that the politicians know to find the voters when they need a vote, and the moment they have the vote, they're going to turn their back to the people. And they forget actually that they have a task to facilitate the people of the country, to educate the people of the country, and take care of the people of the country. And I strongly believe that informing the people and educating the people is a task of a government. We are presenting a weekly program. Actually, the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, is presenting a program in which current topics, community developments and issues, and general matters concerning you as a citizen of this country is being discussed. Most of the time, normally, I have a guest with me, an invitee in my radio program, but today I decided to actually use this radio program hour to talk a little with you about some bullet points of the manifesto of the URSM. As you know, we are a very emotional people in the sense that we vote on emotions. We vote for a person because it's your cousin, it's a family yours, it's a friend yours, it's your neighbor. But not often you see that people vote on the basis of objective information that they get from the different political parties that are contesting the upcoming elections. The URSM, I think, until now, is the only political party that is already, visiting the different districts, the people of the different districts, but also approaching the people to, listen to their concerns, their worries, and their challenges, but two, on the other side, to present them with an overview of the manifesto of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. I really believe that we have to inform the people, that the people can vote their conscience, and you can only do that if you are well informed about the choices that you have and what would be a good choice to improve the livelihood and quality of life in County Sint Maarten. Nowadays, there are so many things happening that all of a sudden moment the people are, of course, losing trust and hope in the politicians. And also, actually, this has a reflection on the democracy of your country. For that, the URSM stays serious and focused with one intention: to inform the people well, without being personal, getting personal, without attacking other political parties or politicians from other political parties. No, the only thing that the URSM wants is to inform the people, describe the issues and the cries of the people, but at the same time also to suggest tangible possible solutions to solve the problems of the country. As I many times said, I'm a doctor in the Sint Maarten Medical Center. I have a steadfast job, but next to that I am exposed to so many problems and issues that my patients are presented me, that actually these are one of the reasons that I really decided that I have to step up the plate and not only stay as a doctor helping on a daily basis the people with their health challenges, but also to step up in a form that you can also contribute to try to solve the problems in general for the community of Sint Maarten, with the ultimate intention to inform, to actually improve the quality of life of every citizen living in this country. And hence thus that I thought it would be nice, because until now the way we are campaigning, if you look in the overall how political parties are campaigning, it's in a way that they are not being critical enough in informing the people about the intention that they have to improve the life of people here in Sint Maarten. And actually, as I said in my introduction, I really want to make use of this hour to touch base on a few of the bullet points that we have documented to be actually the guideline of our action plans that we have for the people of Sint Maarten once that we are elected. And, and as you know, the election for Sint Maarten is planned to be on the 11th of January 2024. That's very soon. And postulation day is actually planned for the 22nd of November 2023. We are already in half September. Today is already the 20th. So we have September is almost gone. So we still have October. And then we have November. And let's say in about exactly 8 weeks, we will have postulation day. And at that particular moment, we know that the candidates of the different political parties are known as of postulation day. And then you can work further with the candidates that have been postulated actually to contest the upcoming elections for County Sint Maarten in January the 11th. As I said, I'm going to start with touch basing on a few topics that the URSM thinks is very, very, very essential for County Sint Maarten. And we are going to start with, for example, the topic of housing for County Sint Maarten. As you know, there are at this particular moment about 6,000 families on a waiting list for a house here in Sint Maarten. I do believe it's a primordial, basic human right to have a roof on top of your head. I think that is very important. Who, as a father of a family, doesn't want his family to be protected, to be in a house where the children can have a good night rest, in a house where they can use a corner of the house to sit and make their homework? I do believe one of the most essential things for humankind is to have a safe living space for you to have the basics you need to proceed with your life. And in this case, the URSM realizes that. Especially, I'm very impressed with the amount of 6,000 families on a waiting list for social housing. As you know, since Hurricane Irma, this housing problem became very evident, and we thought after Hurricane Irma that we got this trust fund money that is being administered by the World Bank, that we thought that this money would come back in the form of, for example, housing for those the most vulnerable in our community, that these houses would come for people that really lost their houses, their roofs, during Hurricane Irma. Unfortunately, there has never been a firm, stable project presented and executed to actually give back the people of Sint Maarten, especially the less fortunate in our society, give them back a decent house with a roof that is resistant for bad weather. So at this particular moment, we are again in a situation in which we have an enormous need of housing for the people of Sint Maarten. The Eurosam realizes that, and of course, if and when we are in government, we are going to expand work on projects to finance and expand the housing capacity for the people of Sint Maarten. One other thing that we would like to do is to come with a concept of a rent-to-own housing project to give people social housing in a form that they're going to rent these houses for approximately 15 years. And after paying 15 years of rent, there's going to be a possibility for these houses to become owned by those that have been renting them for the last 15 years. I really believe that we have to do that to help the people, to give them a property that they can use as collateral for further investment and for further development of economic activities that is really going to help them to get out of the challenge of poverty. So we really believe in a rent-to-own housing project system. And further, we have to work also on the project of affordable housing for the middle class. And for example, the problem that we have nowadays is that you have people with a respectable, decent job, for example, a police officer that of which his wife is working in the administration of, for example, an insurance company. The two of them together have a decent income, but still realizing the house prices here in Sint Maarten, if they go to the bank and tell the bank, listen, we are interested, we have the intention to purchase a property, you're going to see that the bank will tell them very fast that they do not have to gather enough income to cover for a mortgage to purchase a property. And one of the reasons that happens is because the interest percentage rate on a year base in the business sector of banking is too high. And that is one of the reasons that we from the Eurosam really think that we have to organize a national bank for country Sint Maarten. And with that institution, we will be able to finance housing for those that are ambitious to have a property as ownership. And in that way, they're going to get a mortgage loan with an interest percentage rate that is much lower than commercial banks can offer them. And in that way, they will be able to cover their obligations, their financial obligations in the coming 20 years, 25 years, while meeting the obligation of monthly paying back for their loan. That is only possible if the interest mortgage rate on a year base is low. Nowadays, 6% interest rate for mortgage, 6.5%, 7% is very common. I do believe that we have to go back to an interest mortgage rate of 2.5%, 3% max, and that will make it possible for people to start thinking about looking to purchase a property, and that is a great way for you to start working on the prosperity of your family. So we have to work on expanding housing capacity for the lower social class of the country, and we also have to see how we're going to found a national development bank that can help the middle class to purchase a property on the basis of a low yearly interest rate in a form that it's going to help them with the financial obligations that they have to pay off this house once they decided to buy that property. What also we have to do is we have to establish a mortgage guarantee fund, and that is very common. You see it in the Western world, in Europe, for example. All countries nowadays have a mortgage guarantee fund, and that is also a way in which those that have a mortgage will contribute with a monthly amount to deposit in a mortgage guarantee fund. And in that way, if something happens to you, unexpected life events that actually is going to interfere with your obligation to pay off on a monthly basis your property, you're going to see that then there is an access with this mortgage guarantee fund that you can make a appeal on this fund to see that they can help you covering for the monthly obligations until you are out of the problem that you're in, and then you can, of course, recatch your responsibility for the continuation of paying your mortgage back, as was the initial deal when you got that loan to purchase that property. These are some ideas that we have that I just wanted to touch base with you concerning the topic of housing. I would like also to talk with you a little about justice. If we think about justice, of course, we are thinking about the police department of Country Sint Maarten, but we are always thinking on, for example, immigration for Country Sint Maarten. We are also thinking on the guards of the prison, for example, when we talk about justice, and we are talking in general about the civil servants that work in the Ministry of Justice, for example. And you know, there have been a lot of discussions about this functiebook, and I have the impression that we're getting there with that document called the functiebook. But the intention of this functiebook, of course, is for government to adhere to the agreements made with the justice workers that is documented in the functiebook. But until now, a problem remains that the government is not keeping up with the agreement that they made that is documented in the functiebook, and that means that until now the justice workers, for example those of the immigration, are not still being paid, and those of the police department are not being paid in full as they deserve. So working on a functiebook, establishing a functiebook, that's one, but actually the real deal is, of course, to adhere to what is documented in the functiebook, to pay actually the justice workers as they deserve. It's not that we're going to do something extra for the justice workers. Absolutely not. It's just pay them what they have right to get. And that is what we have to do once we are in government. We have to just adhere to the details of the functiebook as has been agreed upon in all those negotiations in the recent past. Next to that, I do believe on level of, for example, the Coast Guard, on level of police, on level of immigration, on level of the security guards of the prison, I do believe that we have to make sure that they have enough accommodation and enough material to execute their job with in a way that they are going to protect further our society. We can have a lot of expectations, for example, from the police force for Sint Maarten, but at the end of the day, we will have to make sure that we give them also enough necessary materials for them to execute in a professional way their profession, with the ultimate goal to protect the citizens of our country. So we also have to work on making sure that the materials are there for the justice workers to do what they have to do to give continuation and guarantee to a safe community in Sint Maarten. Another one that is for me an obligation is the construction of a modern detention center, rehabilitation center, and probation center. And actually what we have now is a detention center in Point Blanche. But if you see the condition of that building, it absolutely does not adhere to the international requirements how a prison should be. It's actually inhuman what is happening here, not only inhuman for those detainees in the prison, but it's also disrespectful for the guards working in the detention center of the institution for Country Sint Maarten. I do believe the government should assume their responsibility and adhere to the obligations of a government to make sure that we have a detention center that adheres to the international requirements for respecting the human rights of individuals. And one more, we're talking about the human rights of those in detention, but don't forget the human rights for those that are working far below the standard to execute their job and protect our society in a correct way. So actually, the URSM has also envisioned to work on the construction, initiate immediately once we're in, all the process to start getting the ball rolling for a reconstruction of the prison. Actually, I believe that the Point Blanche location is a good location for our detention center, and there are plans already for years in the draws of government in which a beautiful plan has been discussed to actually leave the prisoners there, and while we keep them at that same place, we can start in a responsible way with the reconstruction of a detention center for Country Sint Maarten. Further, we have to, of course, customize our immigration policies towards the labor necessities. Too often we see that because of the illogical approach of government, we are just hunting undocumented /illegals here on the island, while we know that these people have a great contribution to the economy of the country. And I do believe that, of course, our organized country should have an organized immigration system. We will have to have a good hold and a good control on our legals in our country, and also have a good control to limit the undocumented in our community. But on the other side, at the end of the day, your vision for immigration of your country has to be completely actually adapted to the requirements of the labor market. If you see that in certain areas you need people to work and you cannot get them here, you will have to adjust your immigration approach towards those that would like to come to Sint Maarten to work, because we need them too. They come here, they are officially then registered, they're going to contribute to their tax payment, and they're going to make use of the social system that they have a contribution into. And in that form, it's going to be a win-win situation, because they are getting a job. At the other side, they are helping with expertise and experience and knowledge of a field that we do not get people here to do in Sint Maarten economy. So we will have to be critical in our approach to our immigration policies, because at the end of the day, it has to be a win-win situation for the country, for the labor market, and also in a way that is going to stimulate the economy development of our country. And another one that URSM would like to see is, of course, a new police station for Country Sint Maarten. The first thing, your police is there to serve the people of the country. So you will have to put a police headquarters station in a place that is very friendly and approachable for the citizens of your country. And Philipsburg has been that until now, but now I think it's time for us to relocate the headquarters of our police head office. And I think there are a lot of places that we can construct a new police headquarters for Country Sint Maarten. And then the next question will be, yes, but Doc, once we make and construct that new building, what is going to happen with the old building? And my answer is very easy. We talk that we are a country, we have the status of a country, and I think a must in a country that you call country is to have a police academy. And I do believe that the headquarters, police headquarters that we have now in Philipsburg, I think we can transform that in a beautiful police academy for Country Sint Maarten, in which we use that building as the institution to educate our upcoming police officers to have continuity and enough capacity in police force to actually serve our people and protect our people. So by using this building then as a police academy, one, you are adhering on the basic need and obligation of a country, having an institution that you educate upcoming police officers that will serve your country. And on the other side, by building a new police headquarters, actually you're going to show more respect that you have a well thought of institution that can, with all accommodation, serve the people of Sint Maarten better. We have not only to talk about these changes, but we really have to start doing things in the community for the people of Sint Maarten to realize and feel tangible changes for the country. We are now, since 2010, talking about everything that we should do. The URSM believes that we should now start presenting the people of Sint Maarten tangible developments that they can put their hands on and touch and say, indeed, this is the new police academy for Country Sint Maarten. This is the new headquarters, police headquarters for Country Sint Maarten. This is how we have to work if we want to give the people of Sint Maarten new hope and new trust in the future of their country. I just mentioned a few changes that we have on the field of justice for Country Sint Maarten. I'm going to take a small break, and after this break, I will come back to discuss other bullet points in other areas that we from the URSM are planning to do and to introduce to bring significant changes in positive sense for the people of Sint Maarten. We will be back in a few minutes. Dear people of Sint Maarten, welcome to the second half of our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM. As was mentioned in the first half of our radio program, today we have been highlighting some bullet points of our manifesto, and the URSM wants to do things different, wants to walk on a different and other road, and that is the reason that we already in a very early stage of campaigning, we are already sharing a bullet point type of manifesto to the voters and to the community, because I think people should be able to vote their conscience, read to what political parties have to offer to the people, and once they're well informed, I think they can take a well-balanced decision for who they're going to vote to take care of their business. So we spoke already in the first half of our radio program today. We highlighted some bullet points on the topic of housing, and also we highlighted some bullet points on the topic of justice. One more that I would like to highlight on is, of course, environment. You know, we still have this dump here, and it's becoming a monster of this country. And what worries me the most is, of course, that we are collecting our garbage in the center of our Philipsburg. Can you imagine that we are collecting our garbage without processing it? Actually, we are using all our garbage. We are just dumping it actually in the heart of Philipsburg. Unacceptable. Shows that we are not mature enough in this country, Sint Maarten, to really realize that it's acceptable that we are dumping our garbage in our Philipsburg. So there must be, and there is a plan for the dump. We really believe that we will have to structurally, with assistance of knowledgeable institutions in the world, we will have to tackle this dump, because at the end of the day, there is no place for a dump in Philipsburg in the eyes of the political movement URSM. We are not collecting our dump at home in our living room. Why do we do that with our living room called Philipsburg? Unacceptable, so we will have to come with a solution to transfer our collection point of garbage to a other place, and in a way that we are responsible, busy with the processing of our garbage. That's one. Further, we want to establish from the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, a waste management authority. For example, in Curaçao, they have Celicor. Celicor is an authority that has a very, very good overview about the collection and processing of garbage for country Curaçao. Why are we going to invent the wheel again, lose a lot of time in something that is worked out already? It's just about copy-pasting it and adjusting it to the local situation for country Sint Maarten. So the basics for the authority for a waste management system, they have invented it already, and a good example of that is the one that they have in Curaçao. So once the URSM is in government, we are going to introduce and establish a waste management authority to deal in a responsible way with the handling of our garbage. And further, I do believe that we have to introduce environmental officers for the community. One thing that is killing me is seeing the increase of the amount of car wrecks next to the main roads of Sint Maarten. We are selling ourselves as a tourist destination in the world, and once the tourists are here, they're driving on our roads that are of very, very bad quality, and what they see on the side of the roads are car wrecks. You really think a tourist abroad is saving his or her money to come to a country to look at car wrecks next to the road? I think that's a shame. That is an offense for those that really love Sint Maarten, and also an offense to those that spend their money to come have a good time in our country. And actually, we have to realize that they are contributing to our monopillar economy that is based on tourism. So we will have to introduce, for example, environmental officers that will really get a grip on the increase of the car wrecks next to the roads, and also tackle that problem and make sure that we have a general cleanup, not only of car wrecks, but all the debris that I see that citizens are dumping next to the roads of our Sint Maarten. You know, it hurts me to see a country that I love so immensely, to see how dirty this country is becoming. And everybody wants to be in Sint Maarten, but they are abusing of our country. They are throwing their garbage all over. Cars are being parked, wrecks are being parked all over next to the main roads of Sint Maarten. I think there should be a hard hand in this one. And we have to tackle from government, we have to organize this garbage that is distributed all over next to the main roads of Sint Maarten, and get a good hold on the organization of this. Otherwise, we are going to lose our Sint Maarten as a great tourist destination. We have to realize that we are eating, our existence depends on tourism on this island. Guys, let's be critical with ourselves. Let's re-educate ourselves. Let's try to start loving our country. Let's start to clean around our houses. Let's make Sint Maarten a beautiful island for all of us. I want every citizen of this country to really be proud that he or she is part of this community, part of this island. And we cannot expect that third parties constantly is going to clean up your garbage for you. My people, all of us have a responsibility to keep our environment clean. At the end of the day, we have a clean Sint Maarten, and with a clean Sint Maarten, people, all of us will enjoy it. Tourists are going to find the place great and nice again. More are coming, more people are going to spend money in our country, and we are going to have an increase of our livelihood standards and prosperity with all the incomes of tourism, pure based on, for example, keeping our island clean. What more do we want to do? We want to also, of course, amend some current environmental laws in a way that we are going to be a little more careful with our nature. Sint Maarten is such a beautiful island. Even now that we are misabusing the nature of Sint Maarten, we still see that this is such a beautiful country. I'm asking all of you, please, to be very critical in dealing with your environment, with the nature, and please protect the beautiful nature of Sint Maarten, because at the end of the day, Sint Maarten is a beautiful land, a beautiful country in the world. These are some bullet points concerning environment for the URSM. We can talk and discuss a lot of bullet points for the topics that I want to discuss with you. We have to also be realistic that we are not making too many statements on a lot of bullet points, because we have to realize that we only have 4 years to govern a country, and if we can achieve what is being stated here in our manifesto of the URSM, we are going to make this country a paradise again, where everybody will be very happy to live in. We have to do something also with our healthcare, of course. And as you know, I'm a doctor here working in Sint Maarten since 1999. But I thought I'm going to leave this topic of healthcare to make it a special, complete chapter in one of the sessions of this radio program, URSM. And I'm going to soon use a whole hour in broadcasting to actually explain the people of Sint Maarten what this Dr. Mercelina wants with the healthcare of Sint Maarten, what type and level of healthcare he is aspiring for country Sint Maarten, and what type of a insurance model we are going to implement to have a sustainable, liable health care financing system for the people of our country. So I'm promising you guys, as a doctor here, of course, I'm very knowledgeable in the area of healthcare. I'm going to soon bring a program in which I'm going to highlight all the ideas that Dr. Mercelina with his URSM has to improve the much needed healthcare for country Sint Maarten. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is running on us. We are here already talking almost an hour on some bullet points of the manifesto of our political movement, political party URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. I promise you that in the future we will have another program that we will put some more attention on other topics, areas of our manifesto to highlight and explain the people of Sint Maarten, because we really believe that once you're well educated and well informed, you can vote your conscience and vote for those that you really think can make a difference for your country. And of course, as I said already, I will soon bring to you in a full radio program of an hour all the ideas that Dr. Mercelina and his URSM has concerning the healthcare action points to improve the healthcare system for country Sint Maarten. Ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching at the end of our radio program for today. I would like to thank you all for taking your time out to be with me in this radio program, and I'm looking forward to have you back next week Wednesday from 6 to 7 on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM for our next radio program, You Are Sint Maarten. I wish you all a pleasant evening. Good night.